Hey, I'm here with Jake. I've met Jake a couple of months ago, and I immediately fell in love with him. There's something with I don't know if you realize this guy is 22 years old, but he shines, and I don't know if you see that through that camera, but he's so wise. I sense
Thank you.
these serenity and things that you usually see in like 60 years old guy with a long beard in the kung fu movies. He has a bit of that.
We're growing it.
Growing it, and it's impressive. He's working with Taylor Conroy that I'll introduce to you later. But I'm curious, and that's the thing I want you to share today with my LinkedIn community and Facebook community is maybe something that brought you onto that process of self-development and improving yourself and being more and more balanced and in harmony, which is what I sense when I see you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what started me on this entire journey came from a negative experience, which was a skin condition where I was breaking out in hives and rashes all the time, as I shared today. And that brought about extreme anxiety. And what that whole experience kind of led me through, and to give everyone listening a very short synopsis, I entered university, had this skin condition anxiety, went through this existential crisis, then ended up dropping out of college, going on this 4-month soul-searching journey throughout Central America, which led me to writing a book and doing TED Talks and speaking, and then meeting Taylor and so forth. But the key message in that for me is have the courage to listen to your inner voice and follow it. Because the manifestation of the skin condition and the anxiety was a result of me not tuning inwards and listening to my body. So I was going down the path that I thought I should go down, that everyone where I grew up and family, it was pressure of you have to go down this path. But that path was not the path that I wanted to go on. And so all that stuff came up, and it taught me this lesson in hindsight of, I had the dream to travel, and I finally answered that. And then what's on the other side of when you do listen to that inner voice and you do follow it, it's beyond your wildest dreams. For me, I always had a dream to travel and speak and have a lifestyle that I didn't want normal, what I grew up with, which was a 9-to-5 job. And so through learning to get in touch with my inner voice has brought me opportunities that I didn't even know was possible. Us sitting here today is an opportunity for me that's like amazing, like living my dream, which would never have happened if I was disconnected from that voice.
Yeah, that's definitely a big lesson here. And what I felt hearing you speak now and earlier on stage is that your commitment, and I think that's a word for me, like I did not listen, but from now on I'm committed to listening, not just once, because like it's easy just to listen once and say, okay, I'm going on that trip, and then you go back to the 9-to-5 or whatever that is.
Yeah.
But it's the commitment of ever pursuing these inner voice, what these inner voices saying. So just maybe a couple of things that following these inner voices led you into, like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll share one, because it's so funny, right? And to what you said, the challenge of following your inner voice, I don't believe gets easier. What gets easier is your ability to recognize the inner voice. It's like, for example, when you build a habit, going to the gym, for some people, right, who don't enjoy going to the gym, they don't like it. But what happens after 30 days in a row is your will is higher. Your ability to just get it done, you don't think about it. And it's the same with our inner voice. So I, followed my inner voice, and I published this book. I accomplished my dream. I gave the TED Talks, spoke. And then I said, I wasn't making money. I didn't know how to make money. I got this thing out. And I said, what's next? And I was like, should I go back to school, or is everybody right? Like, I did this thing, but... And then the inner voice, and I had this dream to travel again, because I went through this 2-year process of writing the book, and one day I'm scrolling on Instagram, and I see this guy advertising for this impact travel trip.
Okay.
It was a $1,000 trip. I had about $3,000 in my bank account because I put all my money into the book, and getting my message out, which was 100% worth it. And I was like, am I going to spend a third of my money right now on this travel trip? Gut feeling.
Boom.
A month later, I have that. I'm like, fuck it. Too late, I guess. But I'm like, I have to buy this trip. I buy the trip. A day later, I win $1,000 in an unrelated contest.
No.
Yep, an unrelated contest that I applied for 2 months earlier.
That you had forgotten about, maybe?
Yep, totally. It was a book writing and
Wow.
marketing contest. Like the equivalent. Like you can't make this up. And then on the trip, I end up meeting a guy named Taylor Conroy. And that's how I met Taylor, who's now my business partner and a mentor of mine, which all came from that seed. I had no idea I was going to meet. I didn't even know who he was when this trip. It was an influencer promoting it. I didn't know who Taylor was, but it was following that inner voice. And it's this continual process. And it's so unsexy, you know? Like following your inner voice at times is hard. And for me, part of it is having the courage to like say the thing or admit to yourself or do the thing that maybe doesn't make so much sense up here, but you feel in your heart that it's the thing to do. And I believe on the other side of that is magic.
And maybe when was one time where following that inner voice, because you say you get better at listening to it, not necessarily at acting upon it.
Mm-hmm.
When was one time you felt like, oh, yeah, I heard you, but I really don't want to do that?
Oh, good. Or like the voice of truth was saying something, but I didn't do it.
Like it was very hard. No, maybe you did, but it's like, you know, like we've been talking a lot about jumping into the cold water. For me,
Yeah.
that's one example where pleasure, ecstasy lays beyond the first pain of imagining yourself going through the cold water. Like what was, for example, for you one really cold water you said, oh, I really don't want to get in there, and you finally did.
And I did do it.
And that was blissful experience.
Well, one that comes to mind is it was like a conversation with Taylor about the business where logically it was like many months ago where we went through kind of a rocky time, and I was saying and kind of doing the things that I thought I should do, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until that I admitted to him, like, this is what I truly like want to do, then the weight dropped. And what happened, well, by not listening though, is I hurt my back and shoulder, which was from over surfing, but of course I know there's more to it, right? And because I was so stressed out, and then part of that learning process told me, okay, by not saying this truth, or because I knew, like, it's not that I was lying to myself, but I knew I wasn't being radically honest with myself. And once I said it, I could feel the weight drop. My back didn't heal overnight. It's been a process, but the learning from that is big.
Okay, that's very interesting. I was imagining like maybe doing an ayahuasca trip or going to Buddhist monastery, but it was actually just saying the truth to someone. That was the coldest water you've had to jump in. And I truly believe that's very much, and we had this conversation with Taylor actually yesterday, is how blissful is the experience to say to someone a painful truth. It's just like it hurts when you say it, but then you are relieved so much.
It's relieved. And even what I think is interesting is I think it's almost more difficult to tell a secret sometimes to someone you know than someone you don't know, or to say the hard thing to someone you already have a relationship with. Because if you say it to someone who else you don't know necessarily, they don't have any expectation, there's no relationship, but to open up to like a partner, a business partner, a lover, whatever, that's the hard stuff, you know?
That's where it hurts.
Yeah, that's not
That's
easy.
easier than shouting asshole on the street.
Yeah, you know, because this guy's like, well, but you don't have that relationship, so.
Yeah. Okay, and just to wrap it up, I just want you to share with the community or like the world one piece of wisdom, something that you feel like maybe at the moment, or something, one of your biggest teachings you've received that you believe can impact the other you that is watching.
Yeah, well, you know, I talked to this wise man at dinner last night, and he told me, your greatest weakness is also your greatest superpower. This guy right here. And why to me that resonates is because, at least for myself, I'm probably harder on myself than anyone else ever is on me, or even will be. And I'm on the path of growth and self-development, which I'm guessing if you're watching this, you probably are too. I think it's easy when you're on that path to always look at how you can improve, which can be also looking at your negatives, but to understand that in your potential weakness also lies your greatest strength, and to be able to channel that weakness and see what about that weakness is actually a strength as well, and to be able to shift and shift your way of being in a way where you're using the energy or that skill set or lack thereof to serve you. And for me, part of that is reading a situation and taking other people's feedback, and the strength in that. I can channel that. So whatever it is for you, think about something that might be a potential weakness that maybe you beat yourself up on, but find the gem in that, because there is something.
And I can just support that. That's being a strong message for me, and a strong realization for me is like, your greatest weakness is just your undiscovered superpower, uncontrolled superpower. If you learn to master it, your life is changing instantly.
Yeah.
Just like it, because you start becoming in love with your weaknesses there, because they're just empowering you. Anyway, thank you so much for sharing, and I hope you all take some very pieces of great wisdom from this very young guy. And if I have to leave you with one thing I heard, is listen to your inner voice. If you feel pain, if you feel discomfort, don't ignore it and wish that it goes away, because it's just burst onto your skin eventually. If it's not your shoulder, or worse, it could be a cancer or something like that. We don't want that. I don't want that for any people I know, or even the people I don't know. Is if you feel something, as soon as you hear these hints, listen to it. You don't have even to act immediately upon it. It's just acknowledge it's there. So thank you so much for sharing that wisdom. And this is probably one of the first of a very long series where I want to share nuggets of wisdom from the wise people I meet. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be there with you soon. Thank you, Jay.
Of course, brother.